Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. It's really lovely and fantastic to have you here. I'm really excited because Kwavi, the lovely Kwavi, has agreed to join for this live. And I hope it's going to be really beneficial because it's the start of a series of lives that I'm going to do to actually bring guests in, because you've probably had enough of me by now and what I've got to say. So I want to bring other people in who are experts in specific areas. And this live, Kwavi's going to talk. We're going to hear about loads of stuff to do with women over 50, but I'm sure that it still applies. You know, if you're in your mid 40s or your late 40s, it's still going to apply to you. And so we're going to hear about loads of fantastic stuff. And I was just going to give you a bit of kind of housekeeping in that I've got this feature called Super Chat. So I would encourage you to use that if you want to ask questions. You don't have to use it. It's a feature that's kind of like a monetized feature on YouTube. And it's just really great for us creators, because what it means is that it helps us keep this channel going and growing, because, you know, we do have to invest in the channel in order to keep it going with equipment, all sorts of things, really. So there's no obligation, but if you want to use Super Chat, please do. So I'm now going to introduce the lovely Kwavi. Kwavi and I met on TikTok, believe it or not, because there's lots of older women on TikTok. And so, Kwavi, tell us a bit about yourself. Thank you very much for joining this live on YouTube. I'm absolutely grateful for you to sort of taking out your time, you know, on a Sunday afternoon to join this live and talk to the women in my, you know, that follow me. Some of them might not even follow me. They're just watching this live. And just tell us a bit about you and what you do and what's your background.
All right. So my name is Kwavi, and I'm a life coach for women over 50. I'm 53, and I absolutely love this age. Just before I turned 50, I started doing interviews with women who are already 50. And I was just trying to get a sense of, you know, what is 50 like? What kind of advice can I get? And I was appalled and disappointed to find out probably about 80% of the women describe themselves as being invisible since they hit 50. And I was like, what? And it just put me on this journey where I started investigating more. Now, prior to that, I did a lot of weight loss coaching for women 40 and over. And when I was getting closer to 50, I thought, you know what, I'll switch gears a little bit. And when I heard that, I was like, what is going on? And you know what, I really was able to find out that there is this narrative out there that kind of implies that when a woman hits 50, that her life is really over. And so for some women, they kind of buy into that narrative because they see it everywhere. And even if you look, like, I'll give you an example. Like if you go into Google and type in midlife, the next word that typically comes up is crisis. And if you click on it and click on images, you will see images of men and women. But let me tell you, the images of men are typically, you know, gray hair, driving a sports car, but the women, starkly different. Most times they're looking frumpy, holding a fan. But see, when you see that over and over again, you begin to believe it and assume that that's the way it is. And so for me, it put me on this journey where I said, you know what, I am going to make it my mission to help women 50 and over to create the midlife of their dreams, whatever that is, without apologies. And so I kind of shifted gears, because before it was just like health and wellness. And now I'm like, I'm doing it all. I'm doing the confidence. I'm helping them with their sleep. I'm helping them with their style, because I really feel that this is our time. We have a lot of experience. We have done a lot up until this point. And this is really our time to really come into our own. And now they're telling us to be quiet. I don't think so. But go ahead.
You are fantastic, Kwavi. I love you because I've seen all your TikToks. You're just really energetic, you know, you're really encouraging, positive. And I love the fact that you do all of it. So you do the style, you do about the sleep, you're going to be talking about eating for hormones. So I just say to everyone on this live, please ask questions. I'm going to read the questions to give Kwavi a chance to kind of then just be able to answer the questions, but go ahead and ask any questions you've got about midlife, because while we've got her here, it's really great if we can sort of, make use of this time, really. So what is it then? What is it that you think women need over the age of 40, over the age of 50, Kwavi?
Well, I think it's a time for us to really make a decision to decide on what we want. And I think up until this point, for a lot of us, we've been nurturers. Maybe we've been taking care of kids. Some of us have been married for so long, so we haven't really taken time for ourselves. And I've heard a lot of women say, like, they get to 50, all of a sudden they look in the mirror, they're like, who am I? They don't even know who they are anymore, because they've played this role, fitting into these different roles, wearing different hats for so long that all of a sudden they're like, who am I? And you're underneath all these layers, but you can't even recognize yourself anymore because you have done so much for others. And in some cases, people please so much that you don't even know who you are anymore.
I'm just going to take a comment here and just put it up so you can see it.
Yes.
I had questions, sorry. Sorry to interrupt with questions, but I think we're going to get a lot of questions, Kwavi. So we can intersperse this discussion with questions. But this is a really common one that I've seen. So do you want to give an answer?
And so one of the things I've noticed as we get older is we deal with what is called overeating, because that's what it really is. Overeating is really what causes weight gain. Let's plain and simple. And for a lot of us, sometimes it just, all of a sudden we're eating way more than we need, because really what we're doing is we're eating more than our body needs for fuel. And so sometimes we can, and I'll give an example, like in her case, probably high state. And in her case, I'll give an example. A lot of us are like busy during the day. So we're doing all these different things, either it's work or, taking care of the kids. And then nighttime is when we're actually able to settle down and be with ourselves, right? Be with our brains. I like to call that be with our brains. And you know what most of us are? Most of us are kind of like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Let me distract myself with something. And that most times food is the easiest way to distract yourself from yourself. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, you know what? Just ask yourself, am I really hungry? Because that's the true question. And for a lot of us, if we settle down and really ask ourselves, most times we're really not hungry, like physically hungry. Most times we're eating as a way, I call it buffering. And buffering just means that we have something going on, but we don't want to deal with it. So we use food to kind of shut it off. And so what I always tell my clients to do is when that urge, because it's really an urge, it's not really like you're hungry. When that urge comes up, I tell them, okay, just allow that urge to be. And allow that uncomfortable feeling to come up, because that's what you're really doing. You're trying to escape that uncomfortable feeling. So you grab whatever it is to eat. And so I tell my clients, you just pause and allow 5 minutes to pass. And if you're still hungry, I tell them, go ahead and eat it. But most times it's such an uncomfortable feeling, but it passes. Whatever that emotion is, it passes. And then you're like, you're no longer hungry. I tell my clients a lot of the times, like when you have that urge to eat, I tell them, okay, do this. Find something else to do. Like sometimes I tell them, get on the phone and speak with a friend, and most times if you're able to do that, that wasn't true hunger. That was just boredom. Or it could be something else coming up for you. Yeah. So.
That's a great answer, Kwavi. I'm so glad you said that, because I get asked it a lot. And it's something, isn't there? There's a difference between hunger and just feeling like snacking, or it's stress, or it's emotional eating, or it's just a habit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely right. In you've got to identify whether you're really hungry. So we've got this really good question here, because you're here to talk about eating for hormones.
Yes.
But Michelle's asking about how she can manage her eating and sleep for hormones. So let's talk about this. Is a really good time to start talking about it, because I know you're a good expert in this area, aren't you?
Some of it. Michelle, I know Michelle. Hi, Michelle. And so the eating thing is, it's normally like the sleep. we have to find ways to get better sleep. And I know for a lot of you, you're probably like, oh, I can't get more sleep. Listen, you're going to have to try and do your best to get more sleep, because it's just a vicious cycle, really. Like, okay, so if you're tired, you know what you do? You're going to eat more. It's just the way it is. And then you're not able to accomplish all the things that you want to accomplish. And then it's like the cycle continues. So I tell my clients to intentionally just find a way to wind down. But I want to say something. I know some of the experts, and some of the experts that are listening probably won't agree with this. Some of the experts say get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. We're different. I'm just going to be honest with you. Some of us can do well with 6 hours and it works for them. So find out what works for you. Because you know when you wake up and you're like, oh my goodness, I feel like I need to go back to sleep, or you feel refreshed. So find out what works for you, the amount of sleep, but don't try and do it all, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to like, okay, I need to stay up. And then you want to make sure everything is done. And then before the kids are up or before your husband's up, you want to wake up early. Let's try and get the amount of sleep that we need, because that also helps, because that is also adding to our stress level. And when we're stressed, guess what we do? We eat more. And so if we can bring that down and just kind of focus, intentionally decide, because we can do it. We always say, oh, we can't. You can intentionally decide that I'm going to get this amount of sleep and see how it works. And when it comes to the eating part, I want all of you listening to this to really start asking yourself, am I really hungry? Because that's a question, if you ask yourself, you really get the answer, and you can decide if you want to do it or not. I'm not here to tell you to do exactly what to do, but I want you to become aware. Like, is that really hunger, or if it's not? So, yeah.
And are there any types of foods we can eat, or any strategies around eating that we can employ? Kwavi?
Yes. So one of the things I do for my clients when they first start working with me, I tell them to cut out flour and sugar. And the reason why I tell them to do that is those are two types of food that wreak havoc on insulin. Like, insulin levels go high. So think about it, as we get older, like at least in our 50s, most of us, our estrogen has dropped quite a bit. And estrogen up until this point was like our best friend. Estrogen was the one helping our metabolism. It helped us with our skin. I mean, estrogen was doing a lot of things for us. So once it starts to drop, one area that we start to notice is the weight gain. And it's not just weight gain all over. It's weight gain in the middle region. It's like all of a sudden you're like, how come? It's like before it was kind of like nicely, all around. Not that you wanted that, but all of a sudden it's like right here in the stomach. So you wear certain clothes and you're like, it's no longer flattering. And so that has a lot to do with the estrogen used to help with that, where it used to help distribute that. And so what I tell my clients to do in the very beginning, the first things that we take out are flour and sugar, because flour and sugar is almost like a drug for the brain. Because when you eat certain foods, regardless of the food that you eat, you're going to get that dopamine hit, right? But the dopamine hit is like a natural dopamine hit. So I'll give you an example. If you eat like a banana, you get that dopamine hit in the brain. It's like, whoo, kind of just like a little buzz. Now, when you eat a brownie, your brain is like, whoa, big difference. Your brain is not going to be like, oh, I want the banana again. No, your brain wants that cookie again. And your brain will remind you of the feeling, that pleasure feeling that you get. And so it's like you do it, and then all of a sudden it's like the over desire kicks in, you want more, and then it's over. And it's like it's a cycle that keeps on going and going. And the only way, I don't care how much willpower you have, you're not going to be able to fight your brain. Oh, no, it's not going to happen. So I tell my clients, we just have to cut it out. And then there's that withdrawal that happens. But listen, it happens for, a short period of time. And all of a sudden, it's like your brain resets itself to where it's like, okay, now I can start eating normal food again. Because our brains are really designed for normal food. This processed food, this came about after our brain, evolved. Our brain wasn't designed to eat processed food. And so when it gets it, it's like almost excited, like, I want more of that. Can I get more? Can I get more? And you try to fight that. You're fighting a losing battle. It's not going to work. You have to cut it out completely.
The scientists actually make it very, very, difficult to resist that type of food.
What are you talking about?
They spend hours in laboratories coming up with the right amount of salt, sweet,
listen,
fat, don't they? That it just makes you want to have more.
It's crazy.
More.
What they've done is they have been able to know which part of the tongue it hits. So you're like, ooh, that They've done all of that. And so you trying to fight that, it's like the only way to do it is just cut it out completely. That's the only way.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice, Kwavi. And then what about the foods we should be eating? Is there anything you think we should be eating?
Yes. And so one of the things I want to talk about is fat. And so if you grew up in my time, like in the 60s and 70s, you remember all those commercials like, don't eat fat. Fat is bad for you. They were so wrong. They were so wrong. And so what they did then when they were taking out the fat, guess what they were putting in our food? Sugar. And that's why all of us are kind of like hooked on the sugar thing. But back to foods that we should eat. We really need to eat more fat in our diet. A lot of us are still kind of scarred from that fat thing. So we don't want to eat more fat, but your body needs fat. I remember having a client and she actually had Hashimoto's and she didn't want to eat fat. And I told her, and she was kind of plateauing on her weight loss journey. And I told her, you know what, you really need, I'm looking at what you're eating. You really need more fat. And guess what? When she started eating fat, her weight started dropping. And so I really want to encourage all of you listening, get more fat into your diet, like avocado, the oils, the nuts. If you're not allergic to it, I know some of you are allergic to it, get the nuts.
There was a bit of disruption. It could be my Wi-Fi. I do apologize.
Yeah. Tracy Ann, yes, it was low fat everything. I'm like, seriously? And so, so now, and even the butters, those are good for you. Our body we need fat in our diet. Don't run away from it. I mean, you need that in your diet. And all of them are naturally based. So it's not like you're eating artificial foods. Your body actually needs it. So those are some of the things. Protein is really good for you. Eat that. Low carbs. And I'm going to be honest with you, on my program, I encourage all types of food that are naturally made. I don't tell my clients to stay away from like potatoes. Some people are like, you don't eat white potatoes. I like my clients to understand what their body needs. And I'll give you an example. Like I can't eat cabbage. Cabbage doesn't work for me. When I eat cabbage, I am bloated and I'm gassy. And so for all of you listening, I don't care who tells you, like the experts, you know who is the real expert? Your body. Your body talks to you all the time. And so what I want to encourage you to do is really listen for those signals. I'll give you a short story. I had gone to Whole Foods maybe 3 years ago. And, look at Lady I said her skin improved with more fat. Yeah, I believe that. And so I'd gone to Whole Foods. I went to get some granola. And so I was looking through the aisle, and this is me. I'm a label examiner. I'm like looking at all the labels. And I was looking at the label and found this really good, all organic granola. It was actually muesli, which was great because it's hard to find muesli in the US. So I went home. I was all excited. The next morning, had my granola, my muesli, added some almond milk to it, had it. I kid you not, probably 15 minutes after I ate it, I heard this funny sound in my stomach. I'm like, what is that? Completely ignored it. Went on with my work day. Because it tasted good. The next day, did the same thing. Had that sound like 15 minutes after, like in my stomach. I'm like, what is? Didn't say anything. Kept on going. The third day, did the same thing. And I'm like, Kwavi, it's the muesli. It doesn't matter that the muesli said it's completely organic, completely natural. It doesn't work for you. And then I had to give it, but it tasted good though. So I think that was one of the reasons why I didn't want to give it up. But it's like, we have to really pay attention. Our bodies give us infinite wisdom all the time. Pay attention to it. It's so important.
Thank you. That's such useful advice, Kwavi. I love that. And I really agree about the whole thing of just eating a healthy whole foods diet. That's kind of what I'm all about as well, because I just kind of think that actually, if you do something like you cut out a whole food group, in the end, that's going to be really difficult to stick to unless, it's food. Like you said, we have a lot of intolerances, don't we, as we get older?
Mm-hmm.
And, I noticed it with my own body that, I can't eat what I did 20 or 30 years ago. There are certain foods that disagree with me. But apart from that, it's just having a healthy whole foods diet is the most important thing. Cooking everything from scratch, like my grandmother did.
Yeah,
that's kind of it, isn't it? Like you said, no processed food. I totally support what you're talking about, Kwavi.
Yeah.
going to take another question here.
I just want to answer Marcy. I like what Marcy said. It's true. Her
Oh, let
body
me
hates
bring it up.
quinoa.
Where's that then, Marcy?
I like that. She said her body hates quinoa. Everyone talks about quinoa being the best.
Oh,
Her body
yeah.
hates that. That's it. And that's it. If your body doesn't like it, don't eat it, regardless of what they say it's supposed to do for you.
Yeah. Yeah, because if somebody says something's good for you, but it doesn't agree with you, there's no point, is it?
No.
I just wanted to this thing about protein bars. What's your thought on that then?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest with you. I personally do not like protein bars. You guys might not like what I have to say, but I don't like protein bars. If I'm going to make it myself. Just because I don't know. I mean, I see what's in it, and unless I've tried it and I know it works for me, but I'm not a big fan of protein bars. That's me. But I do want to add something that Melissa said about as we get older, one of the things I've noticed, especially for women 50 and over, our bodies are changing and then we become more sensitive to certain foods. And I've done my research and there are 5 types of food categories that I've noticed that our bodies have become more sensitive to. And so the first one I want to talk about is dairy. And I'm not saying this happens to all women, but these are 5 that I've noticed a lot of. So dairy is one of them where I've noticed a lot of women start to get sensitive to dairy. Sugar is one, gluten, caffeine, and alcohol, like those 5. And I'll tell you, in my journey, one thing I have noticed for myself is I can't drink alcohol anymore. Like, when I drink alcohol, I stopped maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. Whenever I drink alcohol, my menopausal symptoms are like crazy, out of this world. And I just don't feel right. And so I just stopped it. And so I just want to encourage all of you listening to, those 5 food groups. So alcohol, sugar, dairy, gluten, and caffeine, just to pay attention to those foods and maybe do I call it like a reduce, remove, and reintroduce kind of plan where you see if it's working for you. You might be surprised. Because sometimes our bodies get used to a new normal and we think, okay, this is fine. And then when you start to take it, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm sleeping even better now. And it might have been something you were eating that was affecting your sleep. And until you take it out, you might not know that. So we can't hear you, Melissa.
I was on mute because I was having a drink. Yeah, that's fantastic advice. That's really good because, it's good to know what might be causing the problems as well. So it's like the gluten and the dairy, the caffeine, the alcohol, is having a look at those first. And it might be, I don't know what you think, Kwavi, that it's not about going on a diet as such.
I don't believe in diets either.
It's actually just eating the right foods, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cutting out foods that are going to disrupt our hormones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For sure. Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, when you look at a lot of the processed foods, especially as we get older, because I normally talk a lot about balancing the hormones. And one of the reasons why I talk a lot about that is a lot of the processed food, as we get older, increase our insulin levels. And once our insulin levels are up, our fat stores in our body will never burn that. And the only way you'll be able to get fat off your body is if it burns the fat stores on your body for fuel. That's the only way it's going to happen. And so if you keep on eating the processed food, it's going to be burning sugar. It's not going to burn the fat. And I like to use this as a joke. Like, the most important food your body needs to burn in order to lose weight is the body fat on your body, like the fat stores. That is what your body needs to do. If your body's able to do that, then you're going to lose weight and you're going to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So that's the goal. That's always the goal with for all my clients.
Absolutely. And what do you think is the difference then? I know you said that it's because, we're not making as much as those female hormones, but what's the difference sort of when you start, reaching your late 40s, early 50s? What's the difference? Why is it that we're putting this weight on?
Well, I think, it could even start in the 40s, really. For some women, it starts in their 40s. Some, it's more in their 50s. Like for me, I didn't see any weight gain until I was like 51. And so it's different for everyone, but it all stems from estrogen. it's estrogen that's the only thing that's different at that point. And even for others, people will even say, they started gaining before that. But for a lot of women, they'll see that. And then the real difference you'll see is you no longer gain weight all over. You just see like in the midsection. And that I always tell my clients to really be careful of, because then you can actually be at a higher risk for cardiovascular disease when you have, the fat around the middle. So.
And what are the strategies then? I know I shouldn't asking this, but I'm kind of asking for the audience,
yes,
really.
Yes.
But what are the strategies around the midsection? Give us those.
And so for me, what I've normally told my clients is changing their diet, like eating the whole foods. That's important. And also eating less frequently, like for a lot. Yeah. And then intermittent fasting, that I do that with my clients too. So eating less frequently, it's like Michelle Tolliver, you're like on with me on this. And so for me, one of the strategies is becoming fat adapted. And fat adapted essentially just means that you're eating only when your body needs. Oh, hey, okay. I'm getting distracted with the questions. Let me focus. Yeah. And eating, less frequently. As we get older, one of the things I've found out is we're actually supposed to eat less. We think we need to eat more. Our body doesn't even need our bodies are not doing as much as it used to do before. So you don't even need that much food for energy, unless of course you're maybe training for, maybe you're doing competition or something like that. So that's a bit different. But ordinarily the lay person, you don't really need to eat as much. And so for a lot of us, we're probably eating the same amount we ate before, or maybe in some cases even more. And so that's something to look at. But being able to actually eat less it always works for a lot of my clients. And when I say less, I mean eating like, if you're eating like lunch, you're not eating like 2 or 3 hours later. Because most times if you're eating lunchtime, you don't really need to eat 2 or 3 hours later, unless you're probably more like it's out of boredom or something, because your body is able to, and that's why I talk about the fat adaptation. Fat adaptation means that if you get hungry, your body knows that, oh, you know what, I call it dining in. Your body knows that, okay, I'm going to dine in because I have fat stores in my body that I can use for fuel. I don't always have to eat in order for my body to use it for fuel. It's kind of like when we're sleeping. We still need energy, but our body's using our fat stores for energy when we sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were distracted by this question. So was
Yeah.
I. Hi, Kwavi. What explains the connection with foods and heavy, painful breasts? I notice when I eat chocolate or any such food, I get really painful breasts during my period. I think this is common, isn't it?
Really? I've never heard of it, to be honest. No.
I get a lot of water retention.
Okay.
Yeah. And
but the chocolate
has an
painful breast
impact on that. Don't know about chocolate.
Yeah. So, whoever healthy power lifestyle, does that always tend to happen? Like, is it just with the chocolate? Maybe. That's interesting. I don't know the correlation.
Yeah, we'll wait for an answer. Maybe move on to another question. So, we've got Danny, who's the thyroid healing coach, my buddy.
Hi.
Another one of my buddies. So, if you've guys got Hashimoto's or a thyroid problem, I'd thoroughly recommend you check out Danny, thyroid coach Danielle. She's actually on TikTok and Instagram. I don't believe she's so much on YouTube yet. But Danny says intermittent fasting and lowish carb were the only ways I could lose weight during perimenopause. And Danny has Hashimoto's, so that's a really, really big challenge, isn't it, Kwavi?
Yeah, it is. And I love the intermittent fasting because that has helped my clients too that have Hashimoto's too, because they can't eat certain foods, there's certain vegetables that affect them and things like that. So they have to be very particular about their diet. But intermittent fasting I've found has been very helpful in that area. For sure.
Thanks very much. Mm-hmm. Right, we got a bit of an answer. Health Power thinks it's to do with processed foods that she's having this, breast tenderness at certain times of months, which that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Correct. Yeah, I would think. Yeah.
I've got another question here, if you don't mind me.
Yeah, of course.
Hi, ladies. How about I gain a weight, even no appetite? Oh, I don't know whether I understand that.
Yeah.
I think that means she's gaining weight, even though she hasn't got. How's she gaining weight, even though she hasn't got an appetite or not
Okay.
eating? This is
Okay.
quite common, actually, isn't
Okay.
it?
Okay. Well, and then the question I have then is, how much are you eating? Because I know you're eating something. And what are you eating? Because you can gain weight, even if you're not eating a lot, but it's actually what you're eating that could make you gain weight. And so it'd be interesting, maybe you can give us some more ideas about what it is that you're eating. Because I've had clients that are eating just once a day, prior to working with me, but it was what they were eating that was causing them to gain weight. So.
Okay, I've got somebody here that's asked a question a couple of times, actually. So I'm going to
please
take it because she's
Okay,
obviously
yes.
desperate for an answer.
Yes.
So I think what this lady was saying, DMD, is that she's craving salty sweet foods. And we talked about it, didn't we? That
Yes.
the manufacturers, the food manufacturers know how to exactly entice us and make us want more and more and more of this salty sweet food. So what would you say are some good strategies?
Yeah, I know for my clients, doing the intermittent fasting has helped them a lot. And the reason why is when you're doing intermittent fasting, at least the way I do it with my clients, we cut out processed food. And it's interesting, when you cut out processed food, it actually lowers your cravings because you're only eating in a certain window. And then you no longer have that cycle of eating the processed food that your brain gets that dopamine hit. It's like, oh, I want more, I want more. When you cut that out, it actually reduces. I remember one of my clients I was working with, she had cut out, we had put on her eating window, like I think it was a 8-hour eating window. And every time around her period, because she was much younger, every time around her period, she would want her craving was salted plantain chips. During her period, she would always want that. And so we had started the journey of, let's do the intermittent fasting. We cut out all the processed food. She started cooking her own meals. And then just before her period began, she's like, okay, Kwavi, I'm going to go get my stock of plantain chips because I know I'm going to get that craving. And guess what? She had no craving. And so I say this to share that a lot of all this has a lot to do with our eating habits. If we start to change and reduce the amount of processed food that we're eating, you'd be amazed. The cravings will stop, because the craving is really just a manifestation of what our brain is telling us that we need, because we're not hungry. We're not hungry because we know that if you want a snack, it's not hunger. It's just either boredom or habit, or your brain is like, okay, can I have that? And one of the things I want you to pay attention to when it comes to knowing if you're really hungry and if it's a craving is, a craving always begins with, it would be nice to have that. Ooh, how would it taste? That is not true hunger. That is just your brain giving you an option to let's try this. And so that is something that you can work on, as opposed to, oh, you know what, I'm really hungry. And so trying to know the difference between a craving and a true hunger signal. Like craving, which I think is what happened in that case with the sugar and salt, that is more of a craving. And changing your eating habits and reducing the amount of processed food will help you with that.
That's brilliant. Thank you. That is so good. So you got to go cold turkey is what you're saying.
Yes, you have to, because the thing is, you have to. It's like your brain's going to be like, okay, I can have just a little bit and I'll be okay. No, your brain it wants all of it. So it's like you either cut it off or you're kind of in that cycle of, it's almost like a drug, really. It is. It feels like a drug.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, how can people get in touch with you then? Because you've been saying some fantastic things. So what's the best way of linking in with you?
Okay. Before I say that intermittent fasting is safe for diabetics, Terry, is absolutely safe for diabetics. And the reason why I say that is, the reason why I got into this was because of a nephrologist called Dr. Fung. He's an amazing world-renowned nephrologist, and he started doing a lot of work with his patients that were diabetic. And he realized that when he started to practice the intermittent fasting, their insulin levels dropped. And that was when he was like, you know what, other people can benefit from this. And so to answer your question, yes, it's absolutely safe for diabetics. In terms of, what was my you want to know how to find? Yeah.
I know we're only halfway through, but I know people sort of dip in and out. So I just wanted to say it now and then again at the end, how can people, where can they find you if they want more information?
Okay. All right. So I have a website. My website is www.kwavi.com. And then I'm also on TikTok under as Kwavi_TV. And I'm also on Instagram as Kwavi_TV also. Yeah.
Thank you. And just to let everybody know, all the details are in the description on this video. So you can get the details from there. But I just thought it's good for you to just mention.
Yeah.
Oh, look, here's another one about intermittent fasting. So how many hours do you recommend for intermittent fasting for weight loss?
All right. So I typically tell my clients to start with 8. So 8 hours. So when I say 8 hours is your eating window. So you have that as your eating window. You can go with 6. And what I tend to do with my clients, we tend to mix it up a little bit. Like we'll do 8 hours during the week, and then maybe we'll switch. Like on the weekend, they can do 6. And then we kind of switch it up. But we typically start with 8 hours as the eating window, and then we go from there. And it's interesting, because a lot of my clients will be like, oh, no, I need to eat breakfast. It's really important. And I tell them, listen, because, you hear this, oh, the most important meal of the day is breakfast. And I tell them, okay, that's well and good. But guess what? You can have breakfast at 2:00 in the afternoon. You don't have to have breakfast in the morning. And so, your breakfast can be at 12. It can be at 1. It can be at 2. And what I love about intermittent fasting is it's allowing you to work with your own body signals. Because most times we eat breakfast out of habit. A lot of us don't eat breakfast because we need to. A lot of us are like, oh, I just have to eat breakfast. But then your body might not need breakfast at that time, or you might not need to eat, but you're like, oh, no, I need to eat breakfast. So, yeah, I love
what are your thoughts on, what are your thoughts on eating late at night then?
Okay, so my rule is, it really depends on when you're going to bed. Because I have clients who work in the hospital, so they're eating at night, so it doesn't matter. So it depends on your schedule. Like if you're going to eat at 7 and then go to bed at 8, I'll be like, okay, that might be too soon. But if you're going to bed much later, it's not really the time of day. It depends on your own lifestyle that determines if that's too late for you to eat or not. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I eat at night. And it doesn't do me any harm. I eat just before I go to bed, actually, because otherwise I just get hungry at night. So I eat when I like. I don't have any set time pattern. I just eat when I feel like it. So here we go. This is another one about intermittent fasting. Jodie. I intermittent fast 16/8. During an intermittent fast, am I supposed to reduce the amount of calories? I have an active job and work out daily and eat 1,700 calories a day.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to say my take on this, and this is not a popular take, but this is mine that has worked for me and worked for my clients. I don't count calories in my program. Most of my clients are just lay people like me who just want to be healthy. Right. And so what I do with my clients is I have what it's called like the hunger scale. And so just to give you an idea, it runs from -10 to +10. So think of a line. There's +10 on one side, -10 on the other. And I tell my clients, when we eat, if we're starving, we're going to be at -10. If we're stuffed like over Thanksgiving, we're going to be +10. Like, you have eaten so much, you're going to be +10. So +10, -10, those are the two numbers. And I get my clients to be in the middle. So I like them to be like in the middle, like between a -2 and +2. And I teach them how to understand that for themselves. And I say this because I know that the amount of food that I need is not the amount of food that you might need. Even if we could say we'll eat the same calories, but I honestly believe that it might not work for me. I might need more food. And so I get my clients to understand how much food they need through this hunger signals and using the hunger scale. And so for you, if you've noticed that maybe you're trying to lose more weight, then I would just say, look at the amount of food that you're eating typically. And if you're eating whole foods, I wouldn't even worry about calories if you're eating whole foods, because whole foods are good for us. So I don't really worry about the calories. I worry about, how do you feel after you eat? If you're feeling really full, in fact, I tell my clients, if you eat and you're able to do, like jumping jacks after you eat, then you've had enough. If you can't do jumping jacks after you eat, you've had too much to eat.
Okay, that's brilliant. A brilliant bit of advice. So basically, if you're feeling a bit queasy and you can't do the jumping jacks, there's a problem. You've eaten too much.
Mm-hmm.
Right, sorry, I'm gonna. Oh, butter or vegan butter? You've really answered this already, Kwavi, but let's give it a go anyway.
Well, okay, go ahead.
Should you eat butter or vegan butter?
You can eat butter. You really can. You can. And listen, when I say butter, I mean butter. I don't mean margarine. I don't mean what's the other one? I can't believe it's not butter. No, none of those. I mean real butter, like real butter.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And going back to the sleep, Kwavi, have you got any tips for people? I find I do this, and lots of women my age have this problem where we wake up in the night and we can't go back to sleep. And for people that are just joining, Kwavi talked about the importance of sleep and hormones. So, you know, I talk about this a lot in my videos as well. And so I just wanted to delve a bit deeper into that, because we talked about, you know, kind of the strategies around knowing how much sleep you need.
Yeah.
But if you're finding it difficult to go back to sleep when you wake up, what can you do?
Yeah. Yeah, I know the sleep thing it's really a problem for a lot of women. In fact, there's even a term, they have a term called, like, when you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, a lot of women wake up at that time. And, you know, one of the things I've tried, and I know I've spoken with a few sleep experts, and one of the things they say is, when you're trying to go to sleep, the worst thing you can do is start to think about what you're doing for the day. Like, for some of us, we're like, okay, you know, I'm just going to go ahead and start. What am I doing? No, just calm your mind down. A lot of them suggest maybe some meditation tips to kind of calm you down, because you don't want your mind to start racing when you wake up like that. Don't think, okay, you know, I'm just going to get on my phone. You know, I might just, you know, watch something on TV and think you'll fall asleep. That's not going to work. You have to actually find ways to calm your mind down. One of the women I spoke with, she even suggested that certain kind of music they have now that's actually designed to mimic the kind of signals that your brain needs to fall asleep. So she suggested that. So those are some of the things.
Wow.
And I'm going to be honest, sleep is not my area of expertise. So I'm learning even myself on ways to help my clients. But those are some of the things that they've suggested. Don't try and make it worse by thinking of, okay, I'm going to, you know, let me just go ahead and do things I'm going to do during the day. No, find ways to actually calm your mind down. Yeah.
I mean, I always say a lot of the things that I say, Kwavi, I don't know whether you agree with this, but don't have tech just before you go to bed. It's a big one, and we're all guilty of that, don't you think? We're all guilty of, we got too much screen time before we go to bed, and that's really stimulating. And it's quite hard not to do that, getting on TikTok, scrolling through, aren't you? Just before bed, or even I do it in bed, which I know I shouldn't. So that's one thing, isn't it? No, having a calming bedroom that's clutter-free, a really calm environment is really important. And then I've been trying out, and I find it's good for the wake in the night and not being able to get back to sleep. I don't know whether you've heard of this, a weighted blanket.
Yes, I've heard. Actually, that's a good one. One of the sleep experts I spoke with mentioned that. So that's a good one. Yes.
I found it to be really, really helpful for that thing of waking up in the night, because I tend to fall asleep really easily. But what happens is I wake up usually wanting to go to the bathroom, and then I find it really difficult to go back to sleep. Does anyone have that thing?
I'm sure.
And so I found the weighted blanket. I mean, they are quite pricey. They're probably about $100 or something, but it was worth it, because I found I just got this wonderful night's sleep, and it's a bit like being in a womb or something.
Yes,
so,
actually, that's a very good one, because I remember doing some yoga practice that involved that, where we were like in a cocoon. It was amazing. I really felt like it was like the best sleep ever. So yeah.
But I think it's something, I don't know whether you'd agree, I think it's something you've got to sort of work at, if that makes sense. Sure. Be mindful that you need to actually have some strategies and make it a priority to get enough sleep. And I agree with what you're saying. You know what your body needs. And at certain times of year, I find I don't need as much sleep.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer, when we've got more daylight hours, I need less sleep than I do in the winter, strangely. So I can get by in a lot less, maybe 6-7 hours, but maybe in the winter it's 7 or 8 hours. But I think we have to sort of work at it, don't we?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that we didn't touch on yet that I think is so important also is when it comes to losing weight, and this is one of the things I do with my clients, even before I talk about the strategy, is really, what are your thoughts about it? Like really getting into that mindset of, what are your thoughts about your body like right now? Because sometimes our thoughts about our body are actually what are causing us to gain weight. I'll give you an example. So let's just use a number here. Like maybe you're 250 pounds and your thoughts about that is, I can't believe I'm this weight, you know? And then when you have that thought, I can't believe this is the weight that I am, your feeling is going to be probably maybe disappointment or disgust. And I'm going by what I've heard from my clients. And when you have that feeling of disgust or disappointment, the actions that you take are not going to be in line with someone who's trying to lose weight. And the result is you're probably going to gain even more weight. And so one of the things I encourage my clients to do is choosing a thought that is more empowering about where they are, because it's important for you to love and appreciate where you are right now, regardless of your size. The thing is, one thing we have to appreciate is our bodies have brought us to this point. You know, if you're 50, come on now, think about it. Your body has probably, maybe if your mother's birthed babies, brought you to this point, has taken you through thick and thin. And if nothing at all, that we should be grateful for. And so when you start to look at your body in a different way, you start to take actions differently, because your actions are always driven by your feelings. So if you have that feeling of, oh, it's not worth it, I'm not going to be able to lose this weight, your actions are going to be lukewarm at best. And so that is one area I work with my clients on to begin with. It's like, let's take a look at your thoughts about how you feel about yourself right now, even before we begin to do any work. Like, what are your thoughts? So I just want to add that in.
I think that's absolutely fantastic, Kwavi. That's really good advice, because I always think that weight loss is actually 90% about what mindset, and it's having a positive mindset. And I don't know whether you agree with this, but I think sustainable weight loss actually takes time. And so if you want to do it properly, you're making those small changes. It's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight like you see it on Instagram and all the social media. So you kind of got to love the body you're in, haven't you? For the time being. And that's really important to celebrate. What you're talking about is celebrating what you already have. You know, because by the time you've come to 50, both mentally and physically, you've achieved a lot, haven't you?
Of course, exactly. And I'm all about celebrating that, regardless of what you think. It's like, when I make my clients, I make them write 20 things. And it's always so hard for them. I'm like, write down 20 things you love about yourself right now. It's so hard for them. It's so hard because they've never taken the time to even view themselves as like, okay, something I've done, something I love about myself. I'm like, yes, find it. And it's like, it changes who they think, because you're getting the brain. Our brain loves accomplishment. When you start to go inward, your brain is like, okay, yeah, I'm this and I can do this. I'm great about this. And it just changes the physiological being of who you are when you start to look at yourself differently, as opposed to always being very critical, which for a lot of us, we do that more so than we need to.
That is so fantastic. That's such good advice, because the thing is, I think that many of the comments and everything that I see on social media from women in my age group, they do tend to be a bit negative about themselves. And I think society puts us in a certain position as we get older. You talked about it to me. You said many women feel invisible. And so that would be a real takeaway for people on this live, to actually write down 20 positive things about themselves. I think that's a really good bit of advice. Thank you. I've got a question here, and I think it's
Yes.
been asked a couple of times. So I thought,
Okay.
she obviously is quite desperate for an answer. Thank you,
Yeah.
Cynthia, for joining. And that's an interesting question. So, suggested supplements or herbs for balancing hormones?
All right. So I don't do any supplements. I just believe in eating. I just do the food. So I'm just big on like the different proteins. I guess one of the things I do kind of promote a lot is flaxseed, and that's more because of our bodies are changing and menopausal symptoms. I do suggest a lot of maca powder. Um, that helps a lot, and then just regular food, just like whole foods. I'm big on that. So those are some of the things I recommend. Mm-hmm.
And you look absolutely fantastic on
Oh,
it. Can I
thanks.
just say, that's really interesting that you don't take supplements. Neither
Mm-mm.
do I, really. I take
Yeah.
vitamin D.
Yeah, I
But
do that. Yeah,
I take
because
my muscle building. I take
yeah,
my
I
muscle
do the
building.
vitamin D. I do the D because I
The
was,
vitamin D, because we can be, as women of colour, we're
yeah,
lacking in vitamin D, and also
yeah,
going through the menopause, we can be lacking in vitamin D. And I read up a lot about this and thought, oh yes,
yes,
I'm going to take it. And I
yeah,
often talk about it on my videos as vitamin D.
yes, we need that.
And they are the only other supplements I take tend to be ones around muscle building, which isn't for everyone. They're not particularly around sort of hormones. So that's really interesting because you look absolutely
Oh,
fantastic.
thanks,
You can
thanks,
tell you've got lots of energy.
thanks.
This,
And Yesenia said something. Yes, the hemp seeds. I love the hemp seeds. Yeah, I
yeah,
take those too. Yeah,
yeah, they're good, aren't they? Hemp.
yeah,
So flax seeds and hemp
hemp
seeds
seeds and maca
is what
powder.
we,
I also do the chia seeds too. I did the chia seeds. Those are really
yeah.
good. So yeah.
And do you feel then that that helps you with energy? Because one of the things that women tell me, when they're reaching sort of pre the menopause and then during the menopause, is they have a real lack of energy. So
Mm-hmm.
do you think those foods that you're talking about, the
Yeah.
healthy whole foods, help you with
I
that?
think the whole foods help. I'm telling you, processed food, I want to challenge everyone listening. If you have like flour and sugar in your diet, just take it out for just a week. You'll see a big difference. I'm telling you, just try it for just 1 week. And I know it's hard, but guess what? All of you listening have done hard things. I know that. You've done way harder things than this. So you can do this. Do it for 1 week. You're going to see the difference. It's amazing. You're like, what have I been missing? Seriously. So I'm just telling you, just try it out for 1 week. Just the flour and sugar. I'm not even telling you to do the caffeine, the alcohol. Just do the flour and sugar. You see a big difference. Because I'm 53. I'm not a unicorn. I'm just going to say that. It's not just me. This can apply to anyone. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, because you've touched on it already, Kwavi, but you
Yeah.
sort of help women with their whole aspects of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just a weight loss coach, that was your background, but
Yes.
you discovered, didn't you?
Yeah.
I know I've been talking to you about it,
Mm-hmm.
that actually what we need as women over 50 is help with lots of aspects of our lives. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. And one area that I've seen that a lot of women need help in is confidence. And for some reason, I'm not sure why that happens. We get to 50 and some of these women are well accomplished. They're doing amazing things and they get to 50 and it's almost like they're a shell of themselves. They feel like they don't matter. Their voices don't need to be heard. And so I'm on this mission to really empower women and to get them where they can kind of start to take steps to, get their confidence back. Because, and self-confidence, I know some people think, oh, this person has self-confidence. I don't. Listen, anyone can, grow their self-confidence. Self-confidence isn't a gene anyone is born with. We can all grow that self-confidence. And really what it is just making a decision to do something. And you know what the secret is? Knowing that regardless of the emotion, you're ready to experience it, because that's what it is really. Because you're going to do something you don't know and you're like, oh my goodness, I might be embarrassed, I might be humiliated. But if you're willing to experience any emotion, your self-confidence will skyrocket and be to know, it's okay if people don't agree with it. It's okay. And I think we get to that age and we become more self-conscious and we listen more to the voices. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want they might say this or they might say that. But being willing to experience any emotion, I'm telling you, if you are willing to do that, your self-confidence is going to skyrocket. I'm telling you, it will.
So we feel the feelings, be
Feel it.
willing to feel the emotions.
Be
Okay,
willing
that's
to
really
feel
good
it.
advice.
Yeah.
That's going to help you with your confidence.
Yes.
Yeah, which we've got a lack of confidence, haven't we? Because our bodies.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be that way because we have so much experience. We have accomplished so much up until this point, and this is really the time that we should be sharing our knowledge with other. And one of the reasons why I do what I do, to be honest with you, is I want to help the younger ones coming because I don't want them to go through what we went through. I want them to be, they get to 50 or even before then, they're like, oh, I can't wait till I turn 50. I mean, wouldn't that be a nice thing for people to say, as opposed to, oh no, 50 is all downhill? It's not,
No, 50 is the new 30.
You know what I say? I say 50 is the new 50. That's what it is. 50
Yeah,
is the new 50.
That's doing 50 down. There's nothing wrong with being 50.
50 is the new 50.
Can you tell us a bit about what you do? What is it that you do to help women? Because you just said, oh, it's coaching.
Okay. Yes.
So just talk us through a little bit, give us 5 minutes or whatever on it. And then how can people, if they want to get in touch with you because they're thinking, oh, that sounds like something I need. How do they do that?
All right. So what I'm really doing is I help women who are 50 and over create the midlife of their dreams. And by that, I mean, whatever that means to them. And I want them to be able to do it without apologies. And so my goal is I want them to, if they want to write a book, it's like, okay, go ahead. If they want to change careers, I'm like, we can do that. And so I help them along the journey. And as a life coach, I help them so that they, even those obstacles there, we're like, okay, we're going to get through those obstacles. I'm going to help you. We're going to get through it. And so I help them to become more aware of the decisions that they can take and allow them that they have that choice. Because I think sometimes we don't realize and almost tell them, you know what, you can give yourself permission to do this. That opportunity is there for you. And so I help them with that. And some of them are at almost like a crossroads. They're not sure where to go next. They're like, okay, should I make a left? Should I make a right? They want to do something different. They're not sure what it is. And so I kind of help them uncover by asking them questions, the options that they have available, and they're able to make that choice. And so if you're interested, I am having a free masterclass next week, Thursday, and it's based on the 3 questions that women need to ask themselves when they turn 50 so they can live their best life. And so if you go to my website, www.kwavi.com, you'll see the pop-up and then you can just register. Because I really want to give women that are 50 and over a new lease on life where they can just accomplish their dreams so that they don't get to a point where they're almost regretful and like they start to resent why they weren't able to do these things. So you can do it.
So what are the 3 questions they need to ask themselves? Or is that giving too much away?
Yes. Oh, no. They come to the masterclass to find out.
Yeah, you've got to join the class. Well, it's free, isn't it? So
it's free. It's free. It's free.
And that's Kwavi.tv.
No. The website is www.kwavi. So it's KWAV as in Victor I.com.
Kwavi.com, sorry.
Kwavi.com, yeah. It's okay.
So, and that's in the description. All the links are in the description. That sounds absolutely amazing because the thing is, I've been through a massive change in my life, which I did in my 50s. I'm now working, doing the thing I love.
Yes.
So I just think, I could have been really unhappy. I was in the same kind of line of work for about 27 years.
Wow.
And I just decided to completely change. So I just think what you're doing is phenomenal because, when you get to a certain age, you shouldn't be doing something. If you're working in something that you absolutely hate and you want to change, don't, just feel you can do it.
Yeah, I agree.
People say you're too old. Even my own mother said I was too old. Oh, you need to stay in that job because, it's secure. You've got a pension. No, you need to break out, and actually it's a time when you can have a bit of a renaissance, do something new. And one of the things about being older, I think, Kwavi, is that we become a bit more comfortable in our own skin and not worry so much about what other people think. And it's like, if you want to do it, just do it, go for it. You've still got plenty of life left in you.
I agree. Totally.
So absolutely join that workshop, ladies, if you're interested. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. And I have 2 times. So for those who are outside the country, you know, there's one at 2 o'clock and there's another one at 8 p.m. So, you know, wherever you live, you'll be able to find one that works for you. And it's this Thursday, April
So
the
is that
15th.
2 p.m. ET and 8 p.m.
Eastern, which is,
ET?
I think, 7 your time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, and actually, I put the time there too. I put 2 p.m. I put, 11. I put the time for the West Coast. I also put the time for the UK, so people will be able to pick and think. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention that I want to mention. Someone just put it on there. One of my former clients mentioned it is write down what you're eating. That's a great way to find out what you're doing. Because listen, sometimes we make comments like, "Oh, I don't really eat that much," but you know what does that mean? It's so relative. So write it down, and that way you'll be able to kind of track like, okay, I'm eating. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Even if you taste your child's food, you eat leftovers, write it down so that you can kind of see like, I am eating way more than I need to, or maybe I'm not eating enough, but you won't know if you don't track it.
That is brilliant. I love that because I think you're absolutely right. Most people are eating more than they think. So, somebody's done a super chat. Look, so I thought I picked this up, but I don't think I did.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really common problem.
Yeah.
I think particularly with women of colour.
Oh, really? Okay.
Estrogen dominance. Do you know anything about this?
Not much. So is it display? Is there anything that's coming up because of it? That's my question.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I know a bit about this because I had it for a bit, and not anymore because I've just had my hormones tested. You want to avoid foods like tofu because that's going to give you even more problems with estrogen. So it's just actually looking at the kinds of foods that might promote kind of estrogen dominance. And I think it means that you tend to carry a bit more body fat in your lower body. But I think really it's everything that Kwavi's been telling you on this whole live is about eating a healthy whole foods diet that's free of processed food, because that's going to make it worse, isn't it? The refined sugar, Kwavi talks about the flour, all that stuff, the processed food is going to give us problems when we've got, hormonal issues going on. Yeah. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. And I would definitely try those two. First of all, I would definitely take out the flour and sugar and see if that helps some of it, for sure. Yeah. Oh, Yesenia, you're doing a food journal. Great job. Yeah.
Yeah. Yesenia is a lovely lady, and I've met Yesenia actually. So yeah, I might get her on to talk about the food journal, or generally journaling, not just with food, but with her exercise. And I think journaling's fantastic.
Oh, it is. Oh, I journal. Oh, I mean, I have it's a beautiful thing.
I would just one more question I wanted to take, because I did spot something here that I just thought was maybe quite typical, and really can we try and end this on a high note by giving a bit of advice. So Shani says, I lack so much confidence and stayed in my job too long. Now I'm out of shape at 60. So what are the kind of things that Shani can start thinking about, apart from, she did also ask what time, she didn't catch the time of your Thursday workshop.
Okay.
So if you could just mention that again.
So it's at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday, April the 15th. And so now you're out of shape. You know what, Shana? You can start today. Don't think that because I think that's the other thing. We kind of think, I can't do this anymore. It doesn't matter where you are. That's irrelevant. You have an opportunity to start today. And it's baby steps. And don't feel overwhelmed like you have to do it all. You can start with little baby steps. And the beautiful thing about our brain, I'm going to tell you this, your brain is not going to be happy with you starting something new. That's just the way our brain is designed. Our brain doesn't like new things. That's just how our brain is. However, so I tell you this because your brain is going to tell you, why are you doing this? You know what? Let's just keep the status quo. Let's keep things being normal. That's what your brain is going to tell you. But I want to tell you, you can challenge your brain and say, no, I want to do this. And guess what? Once you start to take baby steps and you start to feel a little bit different, because once you start to, like move your body is going to be like, huh. But eventually it's like all of a sudden your body's like, okay, let's go walking. We walked yesterday, let's go, because your body now gets used to it. And then your brain now gets on board. Your brain is like, okay, let's keep on doing this. So I just want to let you know, in the beginning, it's going to be challenging, and that's okay. That means you're on the right track, quite frankly. And so just keep on doing those little baby steps. Listen, you have Melissa here. She's great with the fitness thing. Do what she recommends. I'm actually doing her program right now, actually, because even though I'm healthy, I want to get a bit more buffed. So Melissa's helping me with that. But, just take little baby steps, and then eventually, you keep on doing. And listen, do not see when you don't do something, you know what you're doing, you're failing ahead of time. Don't fail ahead of time. Just keep on going. It's going to be difficult, but don't quit. Just keep on going. And as long as you keep on going, guess what? You're going to see the result. It might take a while, but that's okay. It's okay.
Thank you, Kwavi. Well, I'm going to finish off on high. That was really encouraging. And I just love you for that. And I love having other women, or, I actually did a recording of another woman that I've had on my channel, which I put up yesterday. She's kind of gone through a fitness journey, but it's really great to have another expert in this area that focuses just on women over 50. It's just absolutely fantastic, because there aren't all that many of us around, are there?
No.
Women, and I'm hoping you guys really appreciate that. And just remind us the times again on Thursday.
Oh, no problem. So it's on Thursday, April the 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time also.
And all the links are in the description.
Yes. And so once you go on to Melissa's going to put the links. And when you click on my website, it's going to show you right away the link for the free masterclass. But Melissa, can I share one more thing before we go?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I want to share this poem. It's about midlife, and I think it's really important. So I want to share it with you. And this was written by, I don't know if you know Brené Brown. She talks about courage. She's a motivational speaker. And it goes like this. I think midlife is when the universe gently places her hands upon your shoulders and whispers in your ear, I'm not screwing around. It's time. All of this pretending and performing, these coping mechanisms that you've developed to protect yourself from feeling inadequate and getting hurt has to go. Time is growing short. There are unexplored adventures ahead of you. You can't live the rest of your life worried about what other people think. You were born worthy of love and belonging. Courage and daring are coursing through your veins. You were made to live and love with your whole heart. It's time to show up and be seen. By Brené Brown.
Brené Brown. So we can get that now on Amazon or something, can we?
Yeah. She's if you Google her, she talks a lot. She's really good.
Thank you. That's been wonderful. Thank you so much, Kwavi.
Oh, you're welcome.
And we'll see if we can set up another time for you to come back. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And see you again soon.
Yay. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.